The museum was founded by a gentleman named Sewell Biggs, and Mr. Biggs was a very avid collector. He was interested in collecting art. And in particular, he was interested in collecting art from Delaware and the Delaware Valley. And so the collection that you see in the galleries today, about half of that collection is what he personally collected during his lifetime, and it really reflects the fine and decorative arts of the Delaware Valley from about 1740 to the present. And the second half of the collection we've been adding to since his death, and it also focuses on the Delaware Valley. We've gone back in time and collected older things, but we've also been collecting very contemporary things. In the second and third floor primarily, we have permanent installations of the collection. On the main level, we do special exhibitions. We just took down an exhibition of regional photography. Before that, we had a wonderful exhibition of John James Audubon's Birds and Mammals of North America. So we do very special exhibitions that draw a lot of attention to the museum. And then what our hope is during those visits that the visitors will discover the second and third floor of the museum so that they begin to get an understanding and appreciation of the permanent collection.
So one of the highlights of our collection is a collection of works by the Peale family. The Peales were a Philadelphia family of artists. The patriarch of the family was Charles Wilson Peale, and he, working in Philadelphia, really wanted to start an artistic legacy in the city, and so he trained all of his sons, all of his nephews to paint. But then he also, very notably, because we're talking about 1700s, he trained the women to paint. So you get works by the daughters, works by the nieces, and it becomes this big collective of works and of artists. So they're looking at each other's works. Very often they're either painting the same subject or they're painting each other's works. So you'll see labels by the Peales that will say, for instance, Mary Jane Peale or Rubens Peale after Raphael Peale. So three Peales influenced this one work of fruit and grapes. It's really interesting to kind of track the way that these artists are interacting with each other. We get everything from still lifes to these wonderful portraits of Philadelphia elite, both kind of common elite people, but also generals and lawyers and kind of everything in between. So in the early 1800s, the mid to late 1800s, you start to get these art schools kind of popping up across the east coast of the United States. The Pennsylvania Academy of the Fine Arts is established around this time frame. So you get artists like Thomas Eakins, William Merritt Chase, some of these really big name people studying at these schools. And from out of these schools, you get very refined styles, so nice crisp edges. Also, still lifes were very popular. You also get what's called a salon hang. So as opposed to hanging works just across the middle of the wall, you start to see paintings hung from the bottom to the top of the wall. And that word salon, that comes from the European salon, which was kind of the big art competition, art show of the year. And they would highlight things kind of dependent on where they were on the wall. So if you were at the bottom of the wall or at the top of the wall, you were in the art show, but you weren't top of the pick, right? If you were in the middle, that meant that you were really on top of your game. You were really a highlight, really a focal point for the show. Starting kind of towards the end of our timeline, we've got the American Impressionist Gallery here. American Impressionism was very much about light and the way that colors react together and work together. This work in particular is reflecting kind of the new woman. So it was painted in 1899 by Robert Reed. It reflects this modern woman who was willing to be on her own, and she's unchaperoned here. She has her elbow bare, which was kind of risque for the time. She's wearing this great big hat. She's kind of looking down at the viewer. So it's an interesting piece for our collection because not only does it kind of inform American Impressionism, but it also gives you a sense of the history of this time and what was happening politically and socially. One of the things that American Impressionism also, the artists were really interested in were these scenes of urban life and the way that urban life was changing very quickly in the mid 1800s, early 1900s. So you get scenes like this, which is showing kind of a straight shot down Broadway in New York City. New York was growing very rapidly during this time. Things were becoming very industrialized. So you get these scenes very geometric, but also there's a softness to them. So the Impressionists, they were interested in brushstrokes that you could see, interested in really revealing the whole process of art making as you were looking at the piece.